Hi, this is Dr. Audrey Ray. Today is the second day of my 2-week challenge that is truly about giving you some insights, some breakthroughs that are completely unscripted, because the truth is, if I need to create structure and give you the kind of quality you deserve, I'm never going to get around to it. So that's a 2-week test where I'm sharing some breakthroughs with you and you can tell me whether you see some value in it or not. So today I want to talk about your organization this year, and not just organization, but also follow through. So let me tell you what I see happening all the time, and you can probably relate. It's usually fairly easy for administrators to deal with what takes very little time and has a sense of urgency and is thrown at them immediately. So what happens is, maybe you come in the office in the morning and your day just goes by so quickly, you're responding to everything that's going on. And at the end of the day, you start to feel bad because you haven't had the time to work on some big projects, anything like strategic planning, anything that requires concentration, creativity, and no interruptions typically has to be put on the back burner when we live in a way that's very reactive like this. So when I work with my clients, we look at priorities, we look at organization, we create free time, we do everything humanly possible for them to have clarity as to what they want to get done and time that is blocked off for those projects. Now, what happens sometimes is when they finally find themselves in the situation where there is time, in fact, they have 90 minutes or 2 hours blocked off for a project, this project is actually the last thing they want to do. So I actually call that task avoidance, is when there is this thing you just don't want to do, but you're not going to admit this to yourself. You're not going to say, I don't want to do it, so I'm just not going to. You're going to be very tempted to catch up on emails, to do all sorts of little things that are really not essential, not urgent. And you can talk yourself into believing those things matter or it's a good excuse to not be working on your project. But what this really is about is you've built up resistance to this project for whatever reason, and you just don't want to do it, which is a very normal human way of reacting to obligations when we're not really feeling inspired. So if this happens to you, number one, my first recommendation would be, look at what kind of meaning you are attaching to this task. Because if you're looking at it as heavy, intimidating, not interesting, maybe it's not easy if you haven't done it before, there may be a learning curve. Or maybe even worse, you've done it before and nobody read it, or you're not sure it's going to be used. For whatever reason, you're looking at this project as something you just don't want to do. So that's your step one, is change your attitude about it. You have to find some meaning in it. There needs to be a level of inspiration. You need to be able to tie this project to some of your goals or some of your values, because when we see no point in doing something, it's really difficult to be motivated. So keep that in mind. Next time you have maybe not the best attitude regarding something that you really need to do. You can't just put it off and pretend it's not there. Number one is, start on your attitude. Change the meaning that you're attaching to it. Find value, find inspiration, and it's going to be easier. So that's one thing that's sort of essential, but obviously we're not going to stop there. So let's see. When you are sitting down to do your task, if you have a huge need to find a distraction, make a phone call, check your emails, get on social media, there's multiple things you can do. So let's say one example, something that I call a micro goal. Let me explain what I mean by that. If the task in itself looks too big and it's intimidating, because it is a full hour or an hour and a half and you just don't really have that kind of motivation at the moment, instead of telling yourself, I must be sitting at my chair for the next 90 minutes and get this done to the point where it's good to send to my admin for her review and maybe send it to my boss tomorrow, that's creating a lot of pressure. So instead of having this big goal of completion and maybe even perfection in 90 minutes, which that in itself can create stress and can hold you back, give yourself a much smaller goal. So for example, you're telling yourself, I am only making a commitment to open whatever documents I need and whatever software I need. So when you have your data, when you have your document, when you have whatever program you're going to use, when it's all open, maybe your second micro goal is, I'm going to read whatever notes I had from last time, or I'm going to read last year's report. And that too is not intimidating. It doesn't create any pressure. And you're giving yourself full permission to stop if you want to. But what's going to happen is, when you've taken that first step, and all your documents are open, your software, you have the data in front of you, your mind is automatically going to start thinking about what you want to put in your analysis, and it's going to get easier because you've eased your way into it. So consider that. Create a smaller goal, a micro goal. It's not the same thing as chunking, but emotionally it has the same value. Quick word on chunking. This is for when you have a much bigger project, something you just can't get done in one day. So you have to cut it in small parts and have deadlines for every single little piece of it that you're going to do. But instead of looking at 3 months of work that is intimidating, you're doing it piece by piece. It's much, much easier to do. Okay, so we talked about micro goals. Something else, if 90 minutes is what freaks you out, and you're like, I just don't want to be at my desk for this long, tell yourself your goal is 20 minutes. You have to do your absolute best for 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, you get to decide, do you continue, do you stop? If you want to stop, you have permission to stop. But chances are when you're 20 minutes into it, you're going to continue. Let's see, what else? What really works for me, and it probably still comes from ego. I've worked on ego a lot, but there's still moments it's still there. Or you can call it self-respect or professionalism. But for me, when I start looking at my identity, it makes me do the right thing. So for example, if I'm procrastinating, all I need is become aware that I'm procrastinating, and I just can't accept that because it's out of alignment with the essence of who I am. I really believe in being courageous and taking responsibility, in being professional, in being reliable, and just not making excuses. I can't stand when people make excuses. So if I look in the mirror and I look like I'm making an excuse, then I have to change it. I just can't live with it. So perhaps you can do something similar. Consider asking yourself, what is your professional identity? What are your standards? So when you know what you are and what you want to continue to be in a consistent manner, where you're not primarily good at something, but there's all the times you're letting yourself down, when you're bringing more consistency, more congruency in your choices and in your actions, it also helps a lot. So consider that, doing your identity. Something that helps short term. A lot of people, when they procrastinate or avoid a task, start feeling guilty. And the longer they're waiting to get it done, there's more guilt, there's more regrets, there's more pressure. They just feel really horrible. So sometimes it helps to ask ourselves, how will I feel if I do it? And how will I feel if I don't? And I know that when I ask myself that, and I know if I do it, I'm going to feel accomplished, I'm going to feel free, I'm going to feel light. I get to go out and play and do whatever I want guilt-free because my work is done. It's going to feel amazing. And I know there's always purpose in my work. So I also tie my work to how it's going to help other people. And that's so much meaning it's going to feel good. So that helps me. And how will I feel if I don't? I'm going to feel horrible because this is what I teach and I can't not do what I teach. That would be insane. Integrity is really important to me, and I can't imagine not holding myself to standards that I'm teaching others to have. So how will I feel if I do? How will I feel if I don't? That works for me very, very strongly. It probably will work for you as well. Let's see. Something else to keep in mind is, how do your actions impact others? Because sometimes we just don't think about it. We just feel like, oh, the deadline is Friday, but I can probably push it. Or you can rationalize, justify in every way why in your culture it's okay to push things back, why people don't take deadlines seriously. Some people even talk about hard deadlines and soft deadlines. And there's all that gray area for all the reasons you can give yourself permission to not follow through. And I think that it's good to have flexibility when you truly are in a situation where you have no control. If you don't have control, there's no point in feeling guilty. You're not going to beat yourself up for what you cannot change. But when you're literally sitting at your desk and you've got 90 minutes to do something that will take 90 minutes or 80 or 60, actually, you probably don't even need the full hour and a half. And there's no excuse, there's no reason, it's just pure avoidance and procrastination. It's important to look at how it will make you feel and also how it's going to impact others, because that's what taking responsibility really is about, is thinking it beyond just the immediate pain of doing the project or pleasure of going to go do something else. There's so much more to the story. So let's see, I had a few bullets here. Did I cover everything? Yeah, last point I had there is self-care. You deserve peace of mind. following through, I always say there's freedom in self-discipline. And people are looking at me like, what? Discipline sounds horrible. Willpower and follow through, this feels like the opposite of freedom, the opposite of choice. But that's the opposite, because the goals you have, when you're keeping yourself accountable, it's accountable to decisions you've made. So you decide what are the right standards and the right expectations for yourself. And when you follow through, you feel free, you feel accomplished, you feel amazing, versus dealing with shame and dealing with procrastination and all of those heavy, heavy feelings. So follow through as a gift to yourself. So I hope you found this helpful. I've got a ton of resources on time management, avoiding procrastination on my website. So check out my blog. You may find resources there you find helpful for whatever situation you're in. I even have a 5-week course where you can learn everything an administrator needs to be optimizing their time allocation, but you don't even need to sign up for the course. Just start reading more blogs, watch more videos, keep yourself accountable, and make this academic year the best year yet. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.